Hey boys, welcome back to the channel where we are going to be diving into some 2023 team breakdowns, team discussions, and I'm actually getting prepared for this. I'm starting this nice and early. I was gonna wait a little bit longer to see if there's any sort of notable signings and whatnot, but I think for the most part they're pretty good. I'll probably just wait. The Dolphins I'll probably save to last, just because probably have better of an idea of what their actual team is going to look like. We sort of have a good idea of it now, but they're probably the one team I'm still a bit unsure of, like how they're going to actually line up and whatnot. But yeah, I'm keen to discuss, because I feel like we do say this every year that there's more player signings and teams are going to be very different. And all that, but it is true this year, and I mean that's a clear case of, I mean, for one, there's an extra team coming into the comp, which just as it is going to make a lot of changes to players moving clubs and whatnot, and just in general, like a lot of the weaker teams have signed up galore. But we're gonna kick it off with my Brisbane Broncos, and I gotta be honest, my initial before all the preseason and some of the drama that has happened, I was pretty high on the Broncos. I gotta be honest. I thought they would and should make the top 8 this year. My view is somewhat changed. And I hope it doesn't affect them, but he started off the TC Rabadi incident, and I mean, Rabadi, I think he was a pretty good player. He had a lot of potential, but it wasn't so much that he's a household name or anything like that. But you know he's got mates in the team and all that, and just someone like that. I'm not going to get into what happened, but obviously he got terminated. Or his contract got torn up. I'm pretty sure it got torn up, right, with all that going on. But he's obviously not going to play. So that's going to put a little wrinkle already. A bit of losing a little focus maybe for some players. Then you throw in I don't want to say Payne Haas situation, because it's not Payne Haas. Again, I'm not going to go into what happened there. It's awful. But again, having your star front rower, who is commanding very good money, potentially, I find it hard to think he's going to be at his best this year. Does he miss some games? I wouldn't be shocked. And just the fact I just find it hard he's gonna be at his best, but we don't know. But that now thrown in, and then also coming out just recently, this goddamn Selwyn Cobbo podcast where he just, oh my god, dude, just take the goddamn podcast away from NRL players playing the game. My god. I mean, that's obviously a hyperbole. I feel like most, honestly, there's some good ones around. I think a lot of the players, it's interesting to hear what they talk about, and some of the stories are quite enjoyable. But some of the players just should not. They should just not do shit like that. And yeah, Cobbo, absolute goose, like an absolute idiot. Now, I know I've seen a lot of, like, I don't know why I go on Twitter, because it's just a cesspool of garbage, but I see a lot of Broncos fans on Twitter acting like, oh, he's right, he's correct, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, bro, he's in, like, for one, personally, I don't particularly like Kevin Walters as the coach anyway, but Cobbo is a 19-year-old kid who plays on the wing. What the fuck would he know about coaching in the NRL? Sorry, but he knows nothing about coaching. It doesn't matter if Walters is the top coach or a bottom coach. Cobbo knows nothing about coaching. So, like, for him to say that, I know he's come out and said it's out of context and whatnot, but I'm not going to waste too much time talking about that, but it's just another distraction. It's another potential rift. And I got to be honest, with everything that's happened so far, I actually think the Broncos are going to miss the 8. I hate to say it, but I don't know. Couple of I do think the Payne Haas one is the biggest thing, because I mean, for the Broncos, they do have good young forwards for sure, but they need Payne Haas to be at his best. They need the roll forward for some of these players to play off the back of. But again, we won't know until the season actually kicks off and what the headspace is like. But we'll go into the player movements, because there is quite a bit for the Broncos. So the notable gains, Jock Madden, obviously from the Tigers, and I mean, is it notable? I think it is. I actually think Jock Madden is a decent player, and he's just a good depth signing. They have lost a lot of players, and a lot of decent players that are very good depth. But I think Jock Madden is a decent signing. Young Tyson Smoothie from the Storm, pretty good signing there. And the biggest one, obviously, Reece Walsh from the Warriors coming back to the Broncos. I'm very keen to see it. The Broncos haven't had like just a really stable fullback for a long time now, really. It's just been like, it's chopped and changed so much the last couple of years. You know, you had Jermaine Asako when he sort of first come on. He looked really good, and then confidence gets shot. He looks absolutely terrible. He gets chopped and changed. You have Tessie New recently. You had Tamara Martin, who actually did a pretty good job last year. Actually, a really good job last year. And a couple other guys thrown in there at times. It's just been a position that they haven't been able to just stick with someone for the long term. Now, obviously, Walsh is still pretty raw, and you know, I know I said stable, but you know, he's got some errors in him. He's got some defensive lapses for sure, but I think Walsh is he's gonna do great things at the Broncos. On the back of Reynolds, Ezra Mam coming through again, the forward pack, if you know, with all things, I still think it's a very strong forward pack. You have some fantastic outside backs. It's a good team on paper. It's a really good team on paper. We'll talk about the losses before I get into anything too much more. So Tyson Gamble, I think it's a big loss. I know people shit on Tyson Gamble constantly. I think he's a great pickup for the Knights, dude. I think Gamble is very underrated as a football player, and I very much enjoyed having him at the Broncos. I think he was a little, well, not harshly dropped or anything, because I do think Reynolds and Ezra Mam were the best half combo that the Broncos could have, but Gamble did a fantastic job. I don't care what anybody says. I liked what he brought, dude, and I think he'll bring some good stuff to the Knights. He's aggressive. He's a grub, but I don't know. I liked it. I liked having it. So that's a big depth loss for the Broncos there. Zach Hosking. It is notable. Like people are sort of carrying on about Hosking a little bit, but he is what is he, like 25, 26? He only made his debut last year. He looked good, but I think people are carrying on a little bit too much with the Hosking loss, and you know, Penrith picking him up, acting like he's this potential rep player. Maybe he is. I don't know. I think he looked pretty good, but there's obviously reasons he hasn't been in the side for, I don't know, since before he's 25, 26 years old. But yeah, you know, it is a bit of a shame to lose him after a little bit of a breakout, I guess. Jermaine Asako gone. Ryan James, Reece Kennedy, thank God Reece Kennedy is gone. Oh my God, literally the bane of my existence, Reece Kennedy. Branko Lee, Tamara Martin, David Mead retires, Tessie New, and Jake Turpin also. Jake Turpin's an interesting one for me, because when he burst into the Broncos team, that aggressive, just flat out game style, dude, I loved him, and then he just fell away. And I think it's a lot to do with he played so hard when he came into the grade, and he's not a big fella. Like he is a small player in comparison, and I think that sort of took it out of him, and he just wasn't the same after a couple of injuries. I think that's what can happen when you go out as hard as he did when he first came into the grade, I think, I don't know, I think it knocked him around, unfortunately, because I thought there was big things coming for Turpin, but he just fell away badly. So I think it's a good, I think it's an okay signing for the Roosters, just as a bit of depth. But I think it's good for Turpin as well, just a bit of a change up I think he needed. So yeah, the losses, I mean, Tamara Martin, I think, is probably the biggest loss out of all these guys. Honestly, it's just so good to see Martin back. Like, the troubles he had after the Cowboys with the bleed on the brain, and, like, the fact he's come back and look that good. Like, he was sensational for the Broncos at fullback. And he's not even, like, I wouldn't even consider him a genuine fullback. I mean, maybe he is. I would have thought more of 5'8", but he did such a good job. And it's good to see him go to the Warriors. I hope he continues that form over there and does some good things. I think he will. But that probably is the biggest loss. And then the rest of them, a few older guys retiring, some decent backline players. I mean, Tessie New had potential, but I think going to Bennett at the Dolphins is probably the best move. Jermaine Asako, we talked about again going to the Dolphins. I think Jermaine Asako is in for a good year. We'll obviously talk more about him at the Dolphins discussion, but I think there's a resurgence for Asako. I think he's gonna kill it under Wade Bennett at the Dolphins. And then yeah, a fair bit of depth, but again, the Broncos, they're never going to struggle in terms of good young kids coming through in the back row or the center position. So they're not huge losses in terms of depth. They'll always have the good young players, up and coming stars potentially coming through. So, big gains, one big gain, one decent gain, or a couple of decent gains, and then quite a few decent losses, but that's always going to happen with the team the Broncos have. We'll have a look at their predicted round one team. So the back five is pretty stock standard. Reece Walsh comes in at number 1, which again I'm very excited for. I think he's going to kill it. Again, he's going to have errors. He's going to have poor defensive reads. He's a small fullback. People act like a fullback should just be saving tries every single time. It's fucking unreal. As soon as the teams can be busting up through the middle of the pack, and then if the fullback doesn't make the try-saving tackle, the fullback's terrible. It blows my mind how crazy people get at a fullback that misses a couple of tackles on their try line. I mean, there's obviously better defensive fullbacks than others, but at the end of the day, I think he'll get better at it. And I think he puts his body on the line regardless. He's just got to get bigger and stronger, I guess. But yeah, Reece Walsh, Corey Oates, Selwyn Cobbo on the wing. Cobbo, I mean, there's two ways this could go. Cobbo could come out and absolutely kill it this year. And I think he needs to, honestly, not even really for what happened in the preseason with the, talking about Kevin Walters and a couple other things he said, but the fact last year, he was disappointing last year anyway, I think. He looked good at times, and he obviously played Origin and performed pretty well, but then he obviously had a couple of rests after Origin. He just, I don't know, he didn't finish the year well at all, in my opinion. And I think this year he needs to pick it up. He's obviously still very young, but I don't know. I don't really know how it's gonna go, but he could kill it, like I said, or he could. I don't know. The type of player he is, I wouldn't be shocked if he sort of spits the dummy a little bit if something happens and just sort of doesn't quite perform as he should. But I'm hoping for the former. I hope he kills it. But yeah, we'll see. Corey Oates had a resurgence last year. He was gone to the NRL a couple of years ago. They were trying to chuck him in the back row. He was getting dropped. I still thought unfairly dropped from the team because I thought he was still one of the best options on the wing. But it was great to see Corey Oates back last year. He's lost. He was never like the absolute quickest winger, but he's lost a bit of his speed, but the power is still there. He was probably a bit safer last year as well compared to previous years. Like he's always got the odd error in him, big OC, but I thought he was pretty safe last year. Katoni Staggs and Herbie Farnworth. I mean, on paper that's a pretty damn good back five. I mean, Katoni Staggs, similar to Cobbo, he needs to have a good year. He was okay. Again, he was very patchy last year. It does come down to a lot of the playmakers just found it hard to get him into the game at times, but I just want to see Katoni Staggs hit his peak, dude, because he's got it, dude. And I funny thing is that probably Origin was the time he sort of lost his form as well, getting dropped from the Origin team. He just didn't really, again, I mean, the Broncos in whole didn't finish the season off at all. Like, they capitulated. But Herbie Farnworth, he obviously missed the back end of the season, which I think is also a pretty telling factor. I think he was far and away our best backline player while he was fit. He was sensational in the World Cup. I love Herbie. I love Herbie. Out of all the back five here, they better keep Herbie. They better keep Herbie, dude. If they let Herbie Farnworth go, I'm going to lose my damn mind. The Haas pairing, Ezra Mam, Adam Reynolds, exciting for sure. Ezra Mam, Reece Walsh, Reynolds. I mean, that's an exciting spine right there. I think there could be some nice trick plays up their sleeve, but Ezra, another year to get more experience with the rigors of NRL. I think Mam he's gonna turn into a Queensland player for sure. I would be shocked if he doesn't kick on and really transform into that one of the best 5'8" in the comp. Is it gonna be this year? Time will tell. But Ezra Mam, I mean, he's a killer. Adam Reynolds. Hopefully he can Reynolds is going to miss a few games this year with some niggles and whatnot, but hopefully he can just get through most of the year unscathed and lead the team around. Again, he was really good last year. He had a couple of stinkers. But overall he did a fantastic job. And again, it was the back end of the season that really took away. Like if you're sort of remembering the Broncos, it's hard to really think of them as a really good team last year because obviously you're going to remember the more recent matches and they were terrible. They were terrible in the back end. But to start the year, they were cruising. They were potential top 4. and then it just, oh man, it was awful to watch. The front row, Tom Flegler, Payne Haas. That's a good front row. If Payne, we can't really talk about what will happen there, his mental state, all that sort of stuff. But that is a good front row. Payne Haas, obvious. We all know his skill, his work rate, everything to do with it. Tom Flegler, I mean, we have not seen the best of Flegler, but he is a monster. The offloading ability. He's getting fitter, so he's able to play more minutes now, which is nice to see. A couple of years ago, he was good for like a 20-minute burst, and then he looked absolutely gassed. But last year, he started to produce some bigger minutes. The stray errors, the stray penalties are still a bit of an issue. But if you can just tone it down a bit, I still love Flegler as a starting prop there. Billy Walters has the starting 9 predicted, and he probably does get that starting number 9 jersey. The predicted team here, they do have Corey Paix on the bench, who I do think is a better dummy half. They obviously have the young kid Moser, but for whatever reason, they don't think he's quite ready for the NRL, which is probably fair. That is probably fair. He probably does need another year to build up a bit, but he's obviously the future there. And it's just a matter of trying to get one of these dummy halves to do a good job. I think like Billy Walters cops a lot, and I think a lot of it is pretty fair, but also I think he's a little harshly talked about at times, which is ironic because of his last name. I think people take the mickey out of him. I think he's a pretty solid player. I would prefer Corey Paix starting and Billy Walters on the bench if they're going with that, because Walters, he is more versatile. Like he can play in the halves. I think he did a fantastic job in the halves at the Tigers a couple of years ago. So I would just prefer Billy Walters on the bench, Corey Paix starting and taking it from there. But it is still an issue for the Broncos. I feel that dummy half is just not. It just detracts from a bit of the, because of you just want a good dummy half. Like it's so important for like your forwards rolling forward and getting quick ball out to your halves. It's massive. It's massive. The dummy half is so crucial. If you look at any of the top teams, they have one of the best dummy halves in the comp. So yeah, it's it's going to be interesting to see the Panthers, because they have fucking garbage in the dummy half this year. But we'll see how the Panthers do, losing Coruscant. But the back row of Kurt Capel, Jordan Ricky, Pat Carrigan is pretty good. I mean, Carrigan, it's going to be great to see him back. Hopefully having a full season. Obviously missed quite a bit coming back from the injury last year, but Carrigan is just outstanding. Jordan Ricky, I don't particularly like. I don't particularly like Jordan Ricky. He has the odd game where he looks like an absolute world beater, but he just, other games he misses some terrible tackles, has some errors in him. I don't know, dude. I think there's better options. I'd probably just rather them try to blood. They've got here Piacora, the youngster, on the bench. I think I'd just rather them blood the youngster, and just fast track him into the top grade. I mean, I don't know. Ricky could come out and kill it this year, but he looks like he should be better than he is. I mean, the build of him, the speed, the footwork, he's got it all going, but he just hasn't quite, he just doesn't have the consistency at the moment. But we'll see. Another year. He's still young. I mean, again, he's still a young kid, so we'll see. We'll see what happens this year. Kurt Capel, again, solid as they come. I think, again, he fell away a bit last year, but that's the Broncos as a whole, so I still like Kurt Capel there. And then the bench, they do, like I said, Corey Paix, Piacora, Palacia, and Corey Jensen. It's not a bad bench. They obviously have, unfortunately, Kobe Hetherington is going to miss, I don't know how much he's missing, but he obviously suffered a pretty decent injury early, so he's going to miss a fair bit of time, I think, which is, that's a shame. Hetherington sort of came in and became one of our better forwards. Starting or on the bench, he was fantastic. He just upped the tempo, up the sort of the ruck speed. He was great. So that's going to be a big loss for the Bronx, but they do have, Xavier Willison, sort of in that Piacora mold, could do a job on the bench. Youngster coming through, and yeah, of course they're gonna have other guys in the. And also, I didn't actually mention Jock Madden. They could go with like a Corey Paix and Jock Madden on the bench, but I probably wouldn't do that. I mean, Jock Madden is probably. Him or Billy Walters. I don't know. It could be one or the other, basically. Jock Madden potentially could do a better job. I'm not too sure. But they have some decent options. And then you throw in Dean Mariner. Again, he's a center, so it'd take like a Tony Staggs or Farnworth to be injured. But Dean Mariner, he's going to turn into a player. They still have, Deloise Hoyter, who it feels like, oh my God, it feels like so long ago Hoyter made his debut for the Tigers, and then just to see him pop up in Queensland Cup the last couple of years and make his debut for the Broncos recently, it was great to see, because honestly, when he played for the Tigers, he didn't look good at all. But from memory, he only played a couple of games, which is probably a little harsh, but I don't remember who he played against, but I know for a fact whoever he marked up against in either, I don't know if he played one or a couple of games, he got turned, well, he got destroyed in those games. He was up against a good centre. I can't remember who though, but he looked good. He looked really good when he came in on the wing, I think, for the Broncos a couple of times last year. So they they got some decent depth as well, and like I said, they're always going to have some good youngsters coming through. So the Broncos, before, like I said, before all this drama, I definitely had them in the top 8. After everything that's happened, I just it's just put me off them, and I'm actually, it pains me to say, I'm actually going to predict that they miss the top 8, which is disastrous. But hopefully the off-field stuff doesn't affect them. And again, they're professional footy players at the end of the day. They're getting paid good money to just turn up, do their job, train, play. So they should be able to put it out of their minds, and hopefully that happens and they produce what they can. Because on paper, if they perform as they should and as they potential can, then they're a top 8 team. I don't care what anybody says. That is a top 8. That's a top 8 team. Back 5 killer. Very exciting halves pairing. A very pretty strong forward pack. Definitely props. Back row is 50-50. Pat Carrigan's a star. Ricky, meh. But the dummy half is just the main issue. But the Broncos, I'm gonna ride with them. They're gonna freaking make me lose my mind at points, but yeah, let me know in the comment section how you think they will, how they fare. Hopefully, you guys are gonna enjoy the discussions for the teams here. Some Brisbane Broncos done and dusted. I'll just go through them one by one, and yeah, hopefully, you guys enjoyed. Make sure to like and comment, and I'll see you in the next one.